The headline figures behind the all-new 2022 Volkswagen Golf R Mark 8 are shocking. 0 to 60 happens in 4 seconds. The quarter mile happens in 12 seconds. And this thing goes on up to a top speed that's limited to a mere 155 miles an hour. All of this will certainly give your average Ford Mustang owner a heart attack when they're left in this thing's wake. But the real news here is that Volkswagen claims this new Golf R is the most dynamic and best handling hot hatch they've ever made. Hi guys, my name is Jake Stumph, reporting for HotCars.com. Today it's time to hit the road in Germany's ultimate hyper hatch. Those prodigious headline figures come courtesy of a monster powertrain. VW fanboys and fangirls no doubt know what's going on under the hood here. It's the brand's famous EA888 engine. It's a 2-liter, 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, similar-ish to what you'd find in the Golf GTI, though in the Golf R it gets a turbocharger upgrade amongst others, resulting in a massive 315 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. That's a pretty sizable bump up from the previous Golf R's 288 horsepower. Though power is only half the equation. If you can't put it down to the ground, then what's the point? To that end, the Golf R uses the brand's 4-motion all-wheel drive system. It's a 50-50 torque split front to rear. Interestingly, the new Golf R gets a torque vectoring rear differential, which means that of that 50% of that power, it can send up to 100% of it to either individual rear wheel. That gives this thing a much more neutral handling bias that I really quite like. The more astute viewers in the crowd have no doubt picked up on the fact that with this talk of a revised all-wheel drive system and more sporting dynamics, that this thing isn't necessarily just a drag racer. This thing can really handle on a winding road like I'm on right now. In the typical all-wheel drive fashion, basically point the nose at the apex and put the power down and allow this thing to just shrink around corners. It's actually uncanny how quick this thing is in a winding road. If you can't already tell, you can probably hear me rolling between the gears. And that's because massive kudos to Volkswagen. They continue to offer the Golf R in the United States with a 6-speed manual transmission. Now, in the interest of automotive journalistic fairness and integrity, you can also get the Golf R with a DSG 7-speed automatic transmission. It's an $800 surcharge, and if you want it, it's totally fine. I was able to sample it ahead of the 6-speed transmission tester, and it's fantastic. I have no complaints or no qualms with the DSG. It's so smooth around town and lightning fast, again, up here on a winding road if you wanted to do so. But if you consider yourself a real driving enthusiast, you just have to go for the stick, don't you? The clutch is light and easy to use. It's a total breeze to use in traffic, and very intuitive. It's a similar story with this shifter. It may not be quite as tight or precise as what you get in the Civic Type R, which is kind of the hot hatch benchmark right now, but it is a very smooth operator and a real joy to row your own. This powertrain is basically faultless. You can see the years of development Volkswagen's put into it through the various Golf R models, and it just shows. It's so refined and so flexible and so quick. My only complaint is the fact that even with those fat quad-tipped exhausts, it's still a bit of a quiet thing, isn't it? I wish there was a bit more to give, either from engine noise or from an exhaust note or something. I know that's sort of just the way with these modern downsized turbocharged engines. Not all V-dubs can sound like the glorious Mark IV R32 Golfs now, can they? Still, 1 or 2 more decibels, please, Volkswagen, and this powertrain would be amazing. The combination of that tenacious engine, this all-wheel drive system, and Volkswagen's new dynamic chassis control, DCC, that amongst other things includes adaptive dampers. These fancy shock absorbers, they just iron out the bumps in the road. It's really uncanny. The other cool thing about DCC, besides the fact these dampers are continuously adjusting for imperfections in the road, is that if you change the drive mode selector, you get a massively varied personality behind the wheel with this thing. And I love that sense of flexibility. In comfort mode, the Golf R is quiet and refined and supple, even on these 19-inch wheels with the rubber band thin sidewalls. But if you knock it into sport or race, the ride firms up, the engine noise gets louder. The assistance on the electric power steering backs off, and it makes this thing way more engaging and fun to drive. That sense of duality may be a double-edged sword for some buyers though. Because this thing is so unflappable and so competent around town, it can almost feel a bit dull at low speeds. If you just drive this thing like an everyday commuter car and don't grab it by the scruff of the neck and drive it really hard, you can completely forget that this is a 315 horsepower hyper hatch from Germany. But as soon as you get up here on a winding road, or even maybe the occasional track day, this thing is gonna put a massive smile on your face. All of this comes with an asterisk, and it's the price. The Volkswagen Golf R pretty much only comes one way, fully loaded. Because the Golf R only comes in one trim, and the only real choices you have is which transmission you want and which color you'd like it in, white, black, or blue, this thing rings in at $45,000. It's not a cheap proposition. Volkswagen knows that the Golf R is a premium object. If you just look at the way this thing is contented, it blows all the other hot hatchbacks and sport compacts out of the water with the standard equipment this thing comes with. Not only do we have features like heated and ventilated front seats, but the second row is also heated as well. A lot of family SUVs don't even have a heated second row. We also have plenty of tech goodies in here to enjoy, like Harman Kardon premium audio, wireless phone charging, wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, and this 10-inch infotainment display behind the camera. If you've seen any other reviews on the Golf R, or indeed many other modern Volkswagen vehicles, you'll know this system is a big letdown. Sure, the system has all that great functionality baked into it, but the interface is so clunky because it relies on these capacitive touch buttons. All the buttons on the steering wheel are capacitive touch as well, and it makes it so clunky to use while driving. Even after a week behind the wheel, I've still yet to get used to this system because, man, not only is the UI, UX experience very frustrating, but it's also prone to bugs and crashing, which is very, very annoying. I know Volkswagen has released a string of software updates for this system, but I think this particular car still needs a bit more work. If you can get past the slightly wonky infotainment system, everything else about the Golf R is fantastic for an everyday vehicle. At 6'1", I fit very comfortably in both the front and back seats, and with 20 cubic feet of storage space in the trunk, it's quite capacious. And the fact of the matter is, once you get in this thing and really drive it, you're not gonna care about some stupid infotainment screen anyway. I have to bring up again how much kudos we have to give Volkswagen for continuing to offer the Golf R with a 6-speed stick in the marketplace. Because the list of other hyper hatchbacks with all-wheel drive and 6-speed manuals is admittedly quite a small list. There is no more Evo, there is no more STI, and the new Subaru WRX is a very nice car, but frankly, it does not compare to this in terms of the way it drives, the way it feels, or really anything about the two experiences. I mentioned the Honda Civic Type R a couple minutes ago, and that is my current hot hatch benchmark because I think that's a fantastic driving vehicle. Granted, we have the new FL5 coming out this year, so we'll see how that does. I'm sure being an evolution of its predecessor, it'll be a very nice car, but that is front-wheel drive only. So if you want the 4-season utility and peace of mind that comes with this 4Motion all-wheel drive system, well, this thing's almost in a class of its own. Asterisk, at the time of filming, Toyota has yet to release the GR Corolla, but it is forthcoming. It will be here very, very soon. That's also a hyper hatchback with all-wheel drive, but that has a turbo triple that produces 300 horsepower. Toyota has yet to finalize pricing, but we're anticipating it'll be around 10 grand less base price versus base price. Though the difference is obviously in the contenting and the personality. Toyota is really pitching GR Corolla as this rally-bred performance machine ready to dominate track days. That's why you can get super stripped down versions with a half a roll cage in the back. The Golf R obviously does a very different thing behind the wheel. This is more like your ultimate one-car garage setup. If you need one car to do everything for you, to be fun, fast, spacious, practical, comfortable, usable every single day, this might just be your best option. I can give no higher praise to the new Golf R beyond telling you that I don't want to stop driving this thing. I really don't. The level of agility this thing has on a winding road is just shocking. And the fact that it is so comfortable and so practical every day, you're really not getting much of any compromise. Though I suppose it's my journalistic duty to tell you some practical information about the Golf R, should you be concerned about the details. If you're comparing the DSG to the stick, yes, there's an $800 price bump for the automatic, but the big thing you really care about is actually the fuel economy, surprisingly. The EPA rates the Golf R with a 6-speed stick at 20 mpg in the city and 26 mpg on the freeway. If you go for the DSG, you can expect about a 3 mpg bump overall, thanks to that 7th gear really helping things out on the freeway. For whatever reason, Volkswagen has decided to gear this 6-speed in such a way that you're at almost 3,000 RPM at 70 miles per hour, which is just a bit overkill when you have an engine like this that produces so much download torque. I am so impressed what Volkswagen has done with this new Golf R. From its everyday practicality to its eye-popping dynamics, this thing does so much for so many. So if you're in the market for a hot hatch and your budget might just be able to be stretched enough for a hyper hatch, well, the Golf R absolutely needs to be at the top of your list. That's a great way to wrap things up. Thank you very much for watching, guys. As always, my name is Jake. You've been tuning into Hot Cars. Be sure to check out the hotcars.com website. We have tons of great content going up on there every single day. Oh yeah, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks. All right, bye. Woohoo!